Hey everybody, this here is a surprise pop-up video that I'm doing before the premiere of Season 5, but this is going to be included in Season 5, where I discuss how there is a connection between Dave and Michael Jackson. On January 27th, 1984, Michael Jackson was filming a Pepsi commercial in which there was pyrotechnics being done while he was dancing. Now in this commercial, Michael would suffer second and third degree burns to the back of his head and his neck, which would result in him developing a drug addiction to propofol and other prescription meds later on. But that's not what this video is actually about. This video is about his connection to Dave and how they actually met. After Michael's ordeal with being burned filming that Pepsi commercial, Michael developed a huge sympathy towards people who actually have suffered the same type of burns as him. Now, he began to visit different burn units and talk to different burn victims, as well as developed several charities towards helping burn victims and also donating to charities for burn victims. Now, that same year in 1984, Michael had developed a friendship after meeting David Rothenberg and his mother. Now, David Rothenberg, to the world, we know him as Dave. After meeting Dave, Michael had promised him a lifelong friendship that he actually meant and stuck by up until his reported death on June 25th, 2009. Now that I've given a brief backstory to Michael and Dave's friendship and meeting, now we're going to get into the dark side and why everyone says that that was definitely Michael Jackson that appeared in that CNN interview. On September 3rd, 2009, the day the King of Pop Michael Jackson was to be buried in a private funeral service for close friends and family members. Now before Dave, or the person we were told was Dave, actually headed to that memorial service, he stopped by the CNN office to speak with Larry King Live. Now, after this interview aired, many stories spread like wildfire through the MJ Hoax believers community, stating that this was definitely Michael Jackson disguised as Dave in the CNN interview. Now, I'm going to play the clip of the interview, and I'll explain why after.
And Dave, yes, that's his name, Dave. He was David Rothenberg. He was set on fire in 1983, suffered, as you can see, terrible scars. Michael Jackson befriended him and paid for a lot of his surgeries. Dave is also attending the burial. Why Dave?
Well, to liberate myself from the confines of my father's criminality.
He caused the fire?
Yeah. He is a criminal, and he caused all this. To free myself of his name and his legacy, I decided to become my own person through changing my name.
Now, the first thing I had noticed within the first few seconds of the interview is when Larry King had said, "This is Dave," a longtime friend of Michael Jackson's. Dave looked directly into the camera and then slid down in his seat as if he was nervous, being presented as Dave, being that he knew that that was not Dave, that he knew he was Michael Jackson. Now, the second thing I had noticed was the CNN version of Dave, his eye color was different from the real one. Now, the one on CNN had brown eyes, while the real Dave has a light bluish green eye color. Now, third thing I noticed was there was a difference between the voices of the Dave on CNN and the real one. Now, I'm going to play 3 clips. I'm going to play a Michael Jackson clip, the CNN Dave clip, and I'm going to play the real Dave.
I believe in spirituality, and I believe in a higher source, such as God, but I'm not a Scientologist. I read everything, and I like to read. I love to study.
To liberate myself from the confines of my father's criminality.
He caused the fire?
Yeah. He is a criminal, and he caused all this.
What's up, motherfuckers? It's Double D. I'm about to drop some records here on YouTube. Y'all be recognizing, because I'll be socializing with y'all motherfuckers.
Now, when you listen to the audio clips, you can hear that the CNN Dave and Michael Jackson have voice similarities, while the CNN Dave and the real Dave have none, and they also look extremely different. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is something that other members of the MJ Hoax believers community have pointed out. Now, these pictures have come from fellow believers. Now, first up, someone in the Hoax believers community actually took a picture of the real Dave and a picture of the Dave that appeared on CNN and put them on top of each other to see if they actually matched up. Now, the photos do not match. Now, the eye sockets are totally different, as the person who was on CNN had smaller eye sockets, slimmer eye sockets. The nose shape was actually different, and so was the shading in the scarring. Also, the lips are different. Now, if you look at the bottom lip on the CNN Dave, you'll see that the bottom lip is a lot thinner, while on the real Dave, the bottom lip is a lot thicker, and there's more scarring. Now, next up, another MJ Hoax believer had actually did an eye comparison. Now, the eyes on the Dave, as I've stated earlier on in this video, were brown compared to the real Dave's, whose eyes are actually a light bluish greenish color. Also, looking at the side-by-side comparison, his eyes fit over Michael Jackson's eyes within the Thriller picture, as well as if you look at both of their lips, they both have similar lips. Makeup can't hide a lip shape, no matter how much they actually tried. Now, this last set of photos gives a better comparison as to why we say that was definitely Michael Jackson on the CNN interview. Now, if you look at the top row of photos, the top 3 photos are all Dave. The bottom 3 are Michael Jackson. Now, if you look at the Dave on top, which is the real one, you'll see that his neck is a lot thinner versus the Dave, whose neck is a lot wider. Also, with this set of photos, it allows you to see the real Dave's actual scarring versus the prosthetic scarring that was placed on Michael's face during the CNN interview. Now, you can see that there's more dark brown, reddish undertones in the burns of Dave, while the other has a faded light brown burn across his face. Also, Dave has a big red blister on the left side of his mouth if you look in the middle photo, while the other Dave does not have that. Now, why is that, you ask? Because that was definitely Michael Jackson. Now, in conclusion, we've seen the differences between the real Dave and the Dave / Michael Jackson that was on the CNN interview. You can tell the real Dave from Michael Jackson. As Michael fans, you can tell through his shyness that he displayed while he was under Dave's makeup. You can tell through the voice that was Michael Jackson. Also, the eye color did not match to the real Dave, which pointed to all signs being Michael Jackson, as Michael Jackson had brown eyes, and the Dave that appeared on CNN had brown eyes as well. Now, as I don't want to make any of my videos too long, I'll be seeing you guys in January 2019 for the new year with all new content. So please continue to like, subscribe, and comment on these videos. And please definitely give me your thoughts on this particular video down below, as your opinion is very important to me, and I definitely want to know what you guys are feeling and thinking.
I want to thank each and every one of you for your overwhelming support. You all mean very much to me, and I love you very much.